cannot believe what just happened. I did the palm whistle for the first time in one try, but I didn't have my microphone plugged in like an amateur, like a dunce. Oh well. I guess it goes pretty well with today's theme. You'll see. You guys will see what I have planned for today. But anyways, hi everyone, welcome into SBS. Oh, I had it. Sweet. All right. Today is August 6th. Did I say 7th? 6th. Yeah. Today is August 6th, 2026. It is a sunny day in Los Angeles with a high of 87 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 69. That's 30 degrees in Celsius and 20. Tonight's moon is a waning gibbous with an illumination of 43%. For the agenda today, or more like what I've been up to, I just finished editing the reel where I talked about Hank Green and his AI usage in his script, because I thought I was just seeing so much dogpiling on him, and I didn't really see very many people trying to like understand what he was going through mentally that led him to his reliance on AI. So I thought that maybe I should make a reel on that just to get that point of view out there. And it's been kind of mixed in a good way, I suppose. So I uploaded it on YouTube, and then let's look at some of the replies here. Someone replied, or is it completely unrelated and he's just using a tool to do a job? What a way to read so much into something with no evidence. And I replied, this is 100% conjecture with no evidence. I simply believe it's important to exercise one's ability to try and understand what someone is going through mentally and what led them internally to use AI. So it's interesting. This person's perspective is that there's nothing wrong with using AI to make content. So if this is the worldview that you have, then there's nothing that I can tell this person, because presumably he doesn't believe that using AI is unethical as a science communicator. And then somebody else commented that I was virtue signaling, and that he was sarcastically saying, oh, well, he betrayed one of your core virtues so much that you can't stand to look at him anymore. And I think that's kind of an extreme response to what I was saying. But I just replied, if someone uses AI to write their script, it's no longer their voice. But for some reason, he removed his comment. If anybody leaves like a critical comment, I reply to it usually, so I can refer back to it. But I don't know why they removed it. I'm not angry at the people who use AI, because it's just a publicly available tool that makes everything easier. So of course, people are going to use it. I think some people's perspective is like, oh, it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. There's nothing we can do about it. And meanwhile, there are data centers being built across the country, and the people who live near data centers, their drinking water is getting polluted. And the people who live near there, the sound is just constant, and they're getting like health issues. So, I mean, it's just environmentally and ethically wrong. And a lot of people, the mainstream people who are just concerned with their everyday life, just trying to go about their day, go to work, come back home, they have no reason to care. It's the future, and there's nothing I can do but adapt. I don't think it's the future. I think it's a fad, and the AI bubble is going to pop, and the economy is going to crash, and it's going to be pretty rough for many people because of our over-reliance on AI without it profiting. Oh, let's come up with a word for a sentence for posit. Posit is like to suggest, I believe. Let me see how it's used in a sentence. Posit is to dispose or set firmly. To assume or affirm the existence of, or to propose as an explanation. Oh, wow. So it can mean three separate things. I am most familiar with suggest. Posit. Stanley posited that the use of an invasive species to solve man-made problems would only make the situation worse. I'm gonna sneak that in there. Not exactly sneaking, but we are at 7 word game failures. Kind of scary. Yesterday's metazoa was Psittacus erythacus, gray parrot. Let me try guessing. Ooh, dance. Dance class. Ooh, so E is the last letter of the word. Wonderful. Ports, like seaports. Cool. So we have P and R, and it ends with an E. I feel like I just want to try more vowels. Fix up? Is fix up a word? No. Fix is... Oh, so we have an I. Perfect. So we have an IP, IRP, blank E. Oh, okay. So it could be E. So we have 4 letters. Ripe. Gripe. Gripe. Oh yes, gripe. I was just thinking gripe. Perfect. There we go. Gripe it is. Easy. Easy. Way to go, King. All right, now we go into connection. Oh, it is hot, hot, hot. Yay. Oh my gosh, my cat wants to come in. I open the door and she just stares at me. I'm like, if you want to come in, then step inside. Oh my gosh, today, yes, this is the one and only Ismini. Oh, the mother, the queen, recently spayed, very polite, trying to run from her babies. We're currently looking for her. They're not supposed to drink from her milk anymore, but they keep trying, so she's like running away from them. And I let her hide here. Oh yeah, today. Yeah, today I woke up and I saw Ismini outside sleeping on the top balcony of like little cat house that we have for her. And then I went to the bathroom, washed my face, and when I came out, she was gone. And then I fed all the other cats, and I was looking for her like everywhere for like 20 minutes. And then I walked outside. I was like, oh my gosh, did she somehow get out? So I was walking all around the neighborhood and I couldn't find her. I was worried, but I wasn't too worried because she's a stray cat and she knows the neighborhood. So she knows how to take care of herself, or she used to be a stray cat. But internally I was kind of freaking out. But then I looked in my closet and she was hidden in a corner, like underneath the jackets on top of a bunch of boxes, just perfectly cloaked. So I freaked out for nothing, but yeah. She was just trying to stay hidden from her kittens, I think. When I found her, she was sleeping peacefully. She was knocked out. Oh, Colosseum, Pantheon, Trevi Fountain, and Spanish Steps are all old structures of Rome. Perfect. Let's try that. Colosseum, Pantheon, Trevi Fountain, and Spanish Steps. Boom. There we go. Sorry I jumped the gun on that. I saw those and knew it right away. Oh, no worries. I was just yapping. It's all good. If anything, this helps speed up the process, right? We're in flow now. This kicks off our flow state. I like, yeah, hockey rink, bowling alley, swimming pool, tennis court. That seems pretty reasonable. I haven't even looked at the words and King's got him right. Yeah, he's locked in. He came in here, he was like, I saw all those categories. Let's try this. No? Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is not it. Lincoln Logs are like a toy. Yeah, children's toys, right? Alphabet blocks. I wonder if Jacob's ladders and cup and ball are also like toys. Jacob's ladder, let's look at that. Jacob's ladder, I'm just gonna... So it's also biblical, it's also a film. Oh, it is a toy. Cool, good. Jacob's ladder. So I think it's that. Let's do it. Perfect. That's our yellow. Sagittarius is the most chatty cat that we have. He recently realized that he can meow, and meow often. So Sag has been meowing. Chatty. Oh, lanes, that's great. That's a great connection, King. Bowling alley and freeway have the term lanes in common. Freeway lanes, bowling lanes, and swimming pool lanes. Fishing boat lanes? I don't know if that's the thing. Swimming pools definitely have lanes. I mean, supermarkets have aisles. Let's try this, because we have 3 guesses. Oh, places with lanes. There we go. Nice. Teamwork makes the dream work. Not quite sure. Let's submit. Places with nets. Oh, that's an abstraction that I didn't make. And I think also because I'm not very familiar with Barclays Center, I didn't realize that it was, I'm assuming now it's a basketball court. That makes sense. And let's do the catfish. Okay, so we have, let's try to guess the film. It's a buddy cop film made in the 1980s, action comedy. Buddy cop, I immediately think of like Beverly Hills Cop or Rush Hour. Films about the illegal drug trade, Los Angeles Police Department, Army Special Forces, widowhood. No, it's directed by Richard Donner. Okay, so I'm going to guess Rush Hour. Okay, so let's try. Oh, Lethal Weapon. Is Lethal Weapon a comedy? I've never watched Lethal Weapon, but I feel like that's closer than Rush Hour because Rush Hour was made like in the 90s, I think, and not the 80s. So let's try Lethal Weapon. Oh, you're right. There you go. Lethal Weapon is a 1987 American action thriller film directed by Richard Donner and written by Shane Black. I always thought this was, oh, it's an action thriller. The catfish told me it was a comedy, that's why. It threw me off. Starring Mel Gibson and Danny Glover, the film follows two mismatched LAPD detectives, Martin Riggs, a volatile former Special Forces soldier struggling with suicidal impulses after his wife's death, and Roger Murtaugh, a seasoned homicide sergeant and devoted family man who are partnered to investigate a young woman's apparent suicide during the Christmas season. Oh, so it's giving almost a Christmas type of movie. Like Die Hard. Let's try the next one. Question 2. 20th century American diarists. He's a male actor and a politician. Anti-communist. Actor American. Is it John Wayne? Candidates in the 1976 United States presidential election. This is where my ignorance of history comes to haunt me. He was also a candidate in the 1980 election. He died from, he survived colorectal cancer, but died from Alzheimer's. Pneumonia. Eureka Red Devils cheerleader, so something to do with that. He was one of the presidents of the United States. Oh my god, that should be really easy. Gerald Ford? Am I crazy? He died in 2004. If anybody else has a guess. Gerald Ford, I'm going to say. Oh, I need to know my presidents better. Ronald Reagan. Oh no, of course. I kind of blocked him out of my memory. Well, that's embarrassing. Let's read about Ronald Reagan. Ronald Wilson Reagan was an American politician and actor who served as the 40th President of the United States from 1981 to 1989. A member of the Republican Party, he became an important figure in the American conservative movement. The period encompassing his presidency is known as the Reagan era. Interesting. I heard Ford and I thought of Henry Ford. Henry Ford? John Ford? Harrison Ford. That's who I was thinking of. There is the connection. I thought Gerald Ford was an actor because of Harrison Ford. Wow. So let's try this next one. American 1990s fads and trends. 1990s in music. 2000s in music. American styles of music. Cassette culture. Do-it-yourself culture. Fanzine. Feminism and the arts. Feminist theory. Gen X. Punk genre. Ooh, third wave feminism. Women in music. I feel like I should know this. Women-related neologism. So it's a word relating to women and also in connection to feminism and hardcore punk. Riot Girl, maybe? I think maybe it's Riot Girl. I knew it. Riot Girl is an underground feminist punk movement that began during the early 1990s within the United States and Olympia, Washington, and the greater Pacific Northwest, and has expanded to at least 26 other countries. Yeah, there was a lot of metazoa. Let's learn about an animal. We are going to guess an animal. I'm looking at my cat. Let's guess cat, the normal domestic house cat. The normal cat. Okay, so bony fish, shark, our classic goblin shark. Nope, further away, much further. So somewhere between a shark and a cat. Is it a warm-blooded animal? Is it perhaps a whale of some sort? Like a beluga whale? Okay, further than that. What about an opossum? try a possum. Oh, back up a little bit further. Back up a little bit further. What is Etheria? Subclass of mammals. Eutherians, but excludes the egg-laying monotremes. So these all... Okay, so maybe it lays eggs like a platypus. No. Well, that's a little bit closer. I don't really understand this game. How do you know where to guess next? Oh, okay. No, you're not dumb. This is kind of confusing. So we start with our guess, and then it tells us where in the taxonomical tree our guess was. So if I just guess platypus, it tells me that my guess is here, compared to what we're supposed to guess is in this category. If that makes sense. So it's like, I guessed cat first, but it's not a cat. So then I guessed like maybe a beluga whale, but it wasn't that. So we have to back up more, back up more. It wasn't an opossum, we back up. Yeah, so we just keep guessing animals until we get closer to this green box. It might be a reptile. We can also hint. I'm gonna ask for a hint. Okay, so it gave us this category, Actinopterygii, members of which are known, oh my gosh, ray-finned fish again. 30,000 living species of fish. What about the betta fish? That was one of our guesses last time. I mean, one of our answers earlier, one of the metazoa answers. Oh, cool. So it is closer to a betta fish. An extraordinary diverse taxon of teleost fish with spiny fin rays. This clade contains about 1/3 of the world's modern species. So great, now we narrowed it down to 14,000 possibilities. Perhaps a goldfish? Now I'm just guessing fishes to see what we get. No, so not a goldfish. I'm gonna look up spiny fin ray fish. I don't know many of those. Is there any fish that I know of? Barracuda? Ooh, yeah, let's try barracuda. I like that. Barracuda. Where are we? Okay, so it's further back, further back. Maybe an eel, perhaps. A moray eel? What the? No, moray eel is way in a separate place. Spiny ray fish. Let's look at some of these examples. We got the squirrelfish, flashlight, or lantern eye fish, boarfish, pinecone fish, pricklefish, American John Dory, flying fish, swordtail. Ooh, swordtail, maybe swordfish. Let's try swordfish. I love a swordfish. Swordfish are one of the coolest fishes. Oh, nope. Nope. Rock cod, yellow belly, oarfish. Ooh, yeah, let's try oarfish. Oh my gosh, did you... Dude, you got it! Holy cow, it's the giant oarfish. Did you... Oh my... You were just like guessing? That's insane. The giant oarfish is a species of oarfish of the family Regalicidae. It is oceanodromous species with a worldwide distribution excluding polar regions. Other common names include public oarfish, king of herrings, and ribbonfish. Arglaine is the world's longest ray-finned fish. Its shape is ribbon-like, narrow laterally, with a dorsal fin along its entire length, stubby pectoral fins, and long oar-shaped pelvic fins from which its common name is derived. What I want to see is a video. Oh, wait a minute. Let's take a look at this. Are you kidding me? This is massive. What? Holy... Oh, are you guys seeing this? This is surreal. 23 foot? That's terrifying. Whoa. Holy cow. Giant oarfish.
The giant oarfish is so long, so strange, and so elusive that for
how have I never seen this creature
sailors
before? It's so
believed it
massive.
was a sea serpent rising from the depths. This
Yeah, I imagine ancient sailors seeing this would think it's some kind of dragon.
creature can reach over 8 meters long,
Or snake.
and yet it has no bones in its tail, no visible scales,
Wow,
and
it's
moves
beautiful,
like a giant
though.
ribbon through the water.
Oh,
It's
wow,
the
look
longest
at the
bony fish
sheen.
ever recorded, but despite its size, it's rarely ever seen alive.
Oh.
Most of what we know comes from specimens that have washed ashore, half dead or already gone. What makes it even creepier? It swims vertically.
Vertically.
Yes, head up, tail down, slowly pulsing its way.
Now
through
that
the deep
is a video
ocean
game
like
creature
some kind of
for a
ghostly
platformer.
flag from another dimension. Oarfish live at depths
Platformer,
of up to 1,000
a fish from
meters,
another dimension.
far beyond what divers normally see. They feed on
Oh
plankton.
wow, they
and
feed on
tiny
plankton
crustaceans,
and
filtering
tiny
them from the water
crustaceans.
with gill rakers. They don't bite. They don't
They don't
hug
bite,
people,
okay.
and they're not dangerous at all, but they're so bizarre looking that every time one is spotted, it makes international news.
Oh, sweet. Are they a bad omen? Let's look at cultural history or something. Relationship with humans. Well, the Egyptian deity, of which 16 depictions are known, Hais, is described as a horse-headed snake god and found on coffins and sarcophagi. That's interesting. It has been proposed that this is a depiction of Ar-Glain, based on the similarity of the elongated fins and coloration. The giant oarfish are sometimes known as earthquake fish because they are popularly believed to surface before and after an earthquake, although such correlation is not supported. That would be interesting. That's an interesting hypothesis. Would love to experiment with that. Formerly considered rare, the species is now suspected to be relatively common, although sightings of healthy specimens in their natural habitat are unusual. It doesn't say anything here that it might be a bad omen. But it says here that 6 people agreed to try fried oarfish and said that the taste was suitable, but the flesh was extremely flaccid and overall objectionable. I wonder what condition it was in when they decided to eat it. Alright. So the topic of the day is BPAs. All right, guys, we're going to deep dive into bipolyphenols, I believe, and I'll explain why. So let me go to my Instagram. Was it Foyd? Oh yeah, it's the Foyd one. Okay, so I made this video about Foyd, my reacting to this new slur word that is, I feel like it's pretty commonly used now among Gen Alpha. Like, it seems to me pretty common. And let me show you guys, this is kind of related. Let me show you guys a response on TikTok, which I thought was funny. So I uploaded this to TikTok, and then somebody replied with a, oh, it doesn't show it. But anyways, it's like a miserly old man, like a stereotypical, like, no fun having old man with like a grimace. So it's like these kids saw me and my explanation and my reaction to Foyd, and they equated me with some kind of old miserly old man who was like yelling at clouds. And I thought that was pretty funny. I deserve to be humbled, honestly. And that's kind of the topic of the day. So I made this video. I believe it was Sid mentioned that somebody like in her life who's a male refused to touch receipts because they were afraid that it was going to increase their estrogen count. And for me, that sounds ridiculous, right? That sounds like some kind of crazy, like, red pill theory used to, like, scare people. So somebody replied, I don't support all that BS, but you didn't really do any investigating, just talking. It's been shown the hydrophobic coating on receipts is endocrine disrupting, leading to hormone imbalances. So I woke up one morning a week ago and I read this and I was like, what is this guy talking about? Hydrophobic coating on receipts is causing hormone imbalances. So I did some Googling and I was like, okay, so it's in like the Reddit groups where with people who are trying to be like, it's almost in line with like anti-vaxxers and kind of the people who are like way too suspicious of medical evidence. So I was like, okay, so maybe it's within that realm. But I was like arrogant about it in my response. And that's why I wanted to bring it up. So I replied, kind of snarkily. I said, yes, the concept of receipts producing estrogen that was mentioned for 2 seconds at the end of a video is something I should have done a deep dive on. But to honor your concern, I did some basic Googling and my conclusion is that it's the same pseudoscience as anti-vaccination or meat-only diets being peddled by influencers to exploit the anxieties of insecure men who are all too willing to blame some external grand conspiracy for their own self-perceived lack of masculinity. No matter what investigating I do, it won't sway the minds of people who passionately believe in their crusade against receipt paper. So I was feeling a little bit creatively snarky, and he replied, To be clear, meat-only diets are proven to overload you with saturated fats and not enough dietary fiber or nutrients. Proven bad. Vaccination is a proven tactic for disease prevention. Thus, anti-vaxxing is against the grain of logic. But if you look up do receipts disrupt endocrines, it says yes. It doesn't seem you did good analysis. Look up BPA/BPS. So I was like, okay, maybe he's onto something. And okay, I don't want to always be like, I'm right. So I considered, okay, what is he really talking about? So I looked it up and I found this article. I found this study that other articles refer to called Handling of Thermal Paper Implications for Dermal Exposure to Bisphenol-A and Its Alternatives. So this is what I wanted to lean into today. But I'll just read the reply so we can get this part over with and dive into it. So in the spirit of owning up to my own arrogance, and in hopes of killing my ego, I retract my previous snarky statement. I'm always talking about how pride has no place in the pursuit of truth. I'd rather not be a hypocrite. The study above concerns BPA transference via coating on thermal receipt paper. Upon further reading, what I've learned is it happens, but it's only a part of a much larger issue, which is BPA is not only on thermal receipts, but also in a problematic amount of plastic and canned food and drink containers. And 3, Americans might already be regularly exposed to BPA levels at 1,000 times greater, according to source below, and that's part of what I want to dive into, than what the European Food Safety Authority considers to be safe. Touching a receipt or two won't make a difference for the average person, particularly if you wash your hands. It'd be akin to a drop of water in a bucket compared to how much BPA the general public is exposed to. The implications of this is incredibly concerning if true. And then I listed the source for him to look at, and for us to look at as well. And then I said, thank you for bringing this to my attention. You've inspired me to do an actual deep dive on my stream next Thursday, which is today, so more people can be made aware. I cordially extend to you an invitation if you'd be interested in taking a victory lap and or learning more about BPAs with me. I don't know if he's in chat, but this is kind of the way that I want to respond to people who bring up, other points, is like, maybe I'm wrong and I should see what they are trying to say to me. Because I want to make sure that I'm a reasonable person, and I never want to put myself above someone else. You're so cute, LOL. Most people wouldn't bother to go that far. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I think most people would probably just see this comment and be like, whatever, I don't care about this guy. Who is he? Just some random weirdo? But my entire philosophy is that nobody is a random weirdo. Everybody is somebody, and I can't discount somebody else's opinion because I claim that other human beings are just as valid as I am. So for me to be dismissive would be hypocritical, is the way that I think. So I thought, okay, why not take this opportunity to talk about kind of countering my own arrogance and listening to people who are like, actually, you might be wrong. And if ever I say something incorrect that you guys are like, wait a second, Sam, I don't think you're right, please let me know, because I don't want to spread misinformation. That is one of the things that really bugs me as a human being. I don't want to spread lies. I would rather learn together. My face is so lit right now. Okay. So this is kind of where I started. How much exposure to BPA is safe? Because if BPA is in a lot of objects, we should know, like, how much is the right amount? So this was published in 2024 from the Breast Cancer Prevention Partners. Let me look at who they are exactly, our mission. Our mission is a national organization working to eliminate toxic chemicals and other environmental exposures that lead to breast cancer. At BCPP, we work with communities most highly impacted by environmental exposures linked to breast cancer, translate science into education and action, and press businesses to make products safer and pass health protective laws. Andrea Ravenette Martin, I wonder who she is. I mean, we always have to look at, like, who are they funded by? Who is benefiting from this research? If it truly is just scientific concern, then that would be the best case scenario. So it seems like when I type her name in, it's only related to the breast cancer fund. I was thinking earlier about how in the age of so much content, it's so hard for us to know who to trust or what sources to trust. And people say you can't trust anything, but that's not really helpful. I think what's more helpful is how can we find sources that are trustworthy? Because that's much more active than being like, oh, how do you know they're telling the truth? Well, let's try looking into it. How do we know they're telling the truth? So let's read this article. Europe radically reduced the BPA safe level. You probably missed it. It mostly caused waves amongst those who work in the policy trenches to stop the widespread use of toxic chemicals in our hazardous chemical addicted economies. While it was a couple of years ago, the repercussions continue today. In April 2023, the European Food Safety Authority released its final report on Bisphenol-A, BPA, something that had been promised since 2015. When EFSA started waiting for the results of a huge and groundbreaking set of studies called Clarity BPA. Bisphenol-A, commonly known as BPA, is a hormone-disrupting chemical to which almost all U.S. residents are exposed. And I presume that if American residents are exposed, then perhaps the surrounding countries might also be exposed. Most of our exposure is thought to be through food, and it gives us a source at the bottom here. It's a footnote. Although most of our exposure is thought to come from food, it is worth noting that not all BPA in food may come directly from leaching out of food contact materials. BPA can also get into food through the industrial production emissions into air and water, and through the disposal phase of products containing BPA. It was banned from baby bottles, sippy cups, and infant formula containers over a decade ago in the US. In the last decade, it was widely used on the inside lining of tin food cans. So this is what's concerning to me. If this chemical is like coated on the inside of the stuff what if I feed my cats this stuff? And I'm not trying to, spread any lies. I just want to know if it's true or not. Since then, many companies have switched to lining with new chemical formulas. However, 5 to 6 billion pounds of BPA are produced worldwide for a huge variety of uses every year. 2. King says BPA is used in the food industry as linings in tin food cans as a way to protect the metal from corrosion. Oh wow, thank you for telling me that, because that explains why they would use it. Now the question is how much of it affects the food and how much of that affects our health. So the second footnote here. In 2015, EFSA described the uses as in the manufacture of polycarbonate plastics, epoxy resins, and other polymeric materials. PC is used for manufacturing food and liquid containers such as tableware, plates and mugs, microwave ovenware, cookware, and reservoirs for water dispensers. BPA is also used in the manufacturing of a number of non-food related applications, e.g. epoxy resin-based paints, medical devices, surface coatings, printing inks, flame retardants, toys, and pacifiers with PC shields. BPA has also been used for certain paper products, thermal paper, e.g. for cash receipts or recorders, which is, I suppose, the headline grabbing lead, right? That receipts cause estrogen, quote unquote. BPA-based epoxy phenolic resins are used as protective linings for food and beverage cans and as a coating on residential drinking water storage tanks and supply systems. BPA is also found in clothes, oh my god, mainly those made from polyester and spandex. It may occur as an intermediate chemical in the manufacturing of antioxidants or textile finishing and in dyes production. And that's from this study. Yes, I am human, please let me in. I am human. So it comes from this study, the European Food Safety Authority. This is what the article is based on. So looks like they did this massive study. We're not going to read all. Holy cow, this isn't in this is at the textbook. Okay, let's go back to the article. But it's good to know we can look at this source, right? This is what I want. I just want reputable sources. And whether or not you can trust the European Food Safety Authority, I suppose, is another rabbit hole. Can we trust them? But for now, for our purposes for today, let's just say we are cautiously trusting them. Common uses include materials for food packaging and food production. Toxic BPA pollution from materials that come into contact with our food gets into our bodies. So they're stating that it does indeed infiltrate our physical vessels. Recent testing has found consumers are exposed to BPA through metal cans and various foods. So they tested it. BPA from beverages and metal cans. Are you serious? I drink from Diet Coke cans all the time. Wait a second. Let's look at some of these sources. So this is from ehn.org. Beverages and metal cans may be a source of chemical contamination, study finds. No way. Okay, EDCs were found. Okay, EDCs are endocrine disrupting chemicals. A recent study published in the Journal of Hazardous Materials tested non-alcoholic beverages packaged in plastic, glass cartons, and metal cans for contamination from endocrine disrupting chemicals, EDCs. EDCs were found in 90% of the beverages tested. What? 63 different types of EDCs were detected overall? The drinks in metal cans contain higher concentrations of EDCs than any other packaging tested. This was true even for products sold by the same brand but packaged in different materials. Bisphenols, including BPA, a particularly dangerous chemical associated with harmful health effects, accounted for 87% of the EDCs found. Okay, so now I'm thinking is which drinks? Which cans? Let's look at that study. Okay, so it gives us this Journal of Hazardous Material, and this is the study. Oh my gosh. Let's look at these. Exposure to endocrine disrupting chemicals from beverage packaging materials and risk assessment for consumers. Highlights: at least one EDC was detected in 144 out of 162 non-alcoholic beverage products. PFAs, bisphenols, parabens, and/or UV filters was found in at least one product. Structural isomers of BPA were identified in 19 canned beverage samples. Canned beverages have higher levels of BPA than plastic or glass. BPA levels exceed the newly updated acceptable daily intake for populations. Concerning. We'll leave that there and then go back to the main article. The European Food Safety Authority's conclusions are not just a minor update. They are a seismic shift. This radical revision of the long-time estimated level of safety for BPA has profound implications for food safety policies worldwide. So what insights do the Europeans possess that we have yet to acknowledge? Or rather, what are the Europeans willing to confront that our US FDA is struggling to recognize, and why? Bisphenol-A, or BPA, what? BPA is a synthetic estrogen that can disrupt the hormone system. It is an unstable, lipophilic, or fat-seeking compound that can leach into food products, especially when heated. So that's something to take note of, is that when you are microwaving your food, I mean, I suppose that's kind of a long-running concern that people had, is that they're always saying don't microwave your plastics before you eat food. BPA is in common products, including polycarbonate plastic, dental sealants, thermal receipts, consumer products such as CDs, and sports equipment, and epoxy resins used to line food cans. So when it comes to thermal receipts, the average person probably shouldn't worry too much as long as they wash their hands, but there's a lot of people who touch like dozens of receipts per day, and I wonder if the study includes that. We'll read that after this one. The science. BPA is a reproductive toxicant on California's Proposition 65 chemicals of concern list. I don't know if you guys have been to California, but there's all these signs, not everywhere, but I've definitely seen this, like in gas stations and stuff, like California Proposition 65 chemicals. Like they warn you that certain things might have cancer-related chemicals within them. Okay, there are considerable studies linking BPA exposure to breast cancer. That's terrifying. Avoid canned foods when possible, using fresh or frozen instead. Choose glass and stainless steel water bottles and food containers instead of plastic. I'm fairly positive I'm mostly made up of forever chemicals and microplastics with how much microwave popcorn I have eaten. Yeah, and that's the thing too. I feel like everything we've eaten probably has so much microplastics. We are just so reliant on plastic that... I won't diverge too far, but if you guys ever want to look into it, I'm sure there's been studies done where like the average person has like a certain percentage of microplastics in them already, which is making me concerned because, you know, so many people have cancer. Literally in the last 2 streams, we mentioned 2 different people and a dog that have gotten cancer. I mean, I worry about the possibilities. Okay, the class of bisphenols. BPA, BPS, BPF, and more. BPA is one of the many chemicals in the bisphenol family or class, and the entire class are suspected endocrine disruptors with perhaps one exception. Starting with a non-exhaustive group of 148 bisphenols, at least 34 other bisphenols have already been officially identified in Europe as being of concern whose risks must be addressed. So there are a lot of these Number 4, it was in this one. Evidence of absence, estrogenicity assessment of a new food contact coating on the bisphenol used in synthesis. Why are there so many studies of these? Not why, but how can there be so many studies of these and this is still an issue? Like, why haven't we just completely gotten rid of using BPAs if there's this much research? I mean, I guess it's just money, right? Because, like, I mean, there's so much research that cigarettes are bad for you, but people still sell cigarettes and smoke cigarettes. Scientists express concern over BPA. Governments recognize harm. Scientists and NGOs such as Breast Cancer Prevention Partners have flagged deep concern about our BPA exposure for well over 2 decades. And that's footnote 6. An expert panel consensus statement, integration of mechanisms, effects in animals, and potential to impact human health at current levels of exposure. Another source. These are different studies, right? Evidence of absence. Yeah. In that time, BPA became widely recognized as a hazardous substance that negatively impacted our health, garnering various authoritative classifications worldwide. For example, the EU officially lists BPA as a substance of very high concern for its reproductive toxicity and hormone-disrupting properties both for human health and the environment. This means that the vast EU REACH chemical management system is geared towards phasing out BPA and other substances of very high concern. Okay. What I gather from this, I just realized that, of course, there must be so many companies in America that would lose so much money if they just removed BPA from their products. They would have to do massive recalls and stuff. So people are suffering because, presumably, I'm making a leap. I'm making a kind of deduction, I guess, or induction, maybe. So I'm positing that the reason why Americans are exposed to higher BPA levels than Europeans are is because we allow our companies, despite the evidence, to continue their way of packaging foods with BPAs, because the alternative, which would be to create laws and regulations to curb that, would result in them losing money. It's always about the money. So while people, get cancer from their food products, they're making hundreds of millions of dollars. And of course, if you're a pharmaceutical company, you wouldn't want people to not get cancer, because the way that you make money is from people being sick. There's lots of organizations that make money that would not benefit from people being healthier. I'm making very grim conclusions, but I don't know. I don't think I'm very far off there. I have hope for the future, though. I feel like we're electing better people, like, this year. And people are more accepting of the ideas that the government should take better care of its people. People are more accepting of the ideas that we should tax billionaires more and millionaires more. And the thing is, we don't even have to tax them that much. We just have to close the tax loopholes, because so many millionaires actually don't pay that much in taxes because there are so many legal loopholes. So they end up paying way less than they should. I just think that raising the taxes on the top 1% wouldn't even affect them that much, and it would help everybody else so much. I don't think that's unreasonable to think. Nearly a dozen US states recognize Bisphenol-A as a harmful chemical. States have banned BPA in various food containers, baby bottles, sippy cups, infant formula, children food containers, and reuse containers, and childcare products. So if they've banned it in these, why don't they just ban it everywhere? I bet the states that are more, corporation friendly probably haven't banned them. This is extremely concerning, because this does not say all states have banned the BPA in various food containers. So in some states, baby bottles might still have BPA. Kind of like back in the day with the boomers, when everything had lead in it, like the walls were filled with lead and they just didn't know. It was just a toxic chemical that was everywhere. That might be similar to what BPAs are. I don't know exactly the amount, but if it's happened before that such a toxic chemical is so prevalent, then it can happen again. Tax the rich, exactly. We can just close the loopholes. We don't even have to tax them more. They just have to get taxed, period. In California, BPA is on the state's Proposition 2065 list of cancer-causing and reproduction-harming chemicals. Female reproductive toxicity since 2015, and developmental toxicity since 2020. The list of health effects from BPA continues to expand. Oh my goodness. So the more they study it, the more the list grows, I'm presuming. So the list includes cancers, including breast cancer in females and prostate cancer in males, reproductive disorders involving all reproductive organs and functions in males and females, including low fertility and pregnancy complications, increased incidence of miscarriage. You know what I just thought of? What if, so apparently, like there's like a rising like level of erectile dysfunction in young men. It's like 40% or something. I know that I might be making a leap here, but what if a part of that is like the microplastics in the food that everybody is eating, and it's affecting the hormones in people? Now I'm sounding a little bit nuts maybe, but that's just one idea to think of, because everything is connected. Neuroendocrine disorders impacting reproduction, such as timing of puberty in women and decreased libido, and the neuroendocrine control of testicular function in men. Oh yeah, this is literally what I was just saying. Timing of puberty in women and decreased libido. Oh, I've heard of this too. Like girls are going through puberty much earlier than the previous generations. And the neuroendocrine control of testicular function in men. So, okay, perhaps my crazy hypothesis has some merit. Metabolic diseases such as obesity, diabetes, fatty liver disease, disruption of insulin secretion by the pancreas, and disruption of glucose regulation. Cardiovascular disease, including heart attack and death. Immune disorders, including asthma, allergies, and chronic inflammation. Neurological disorders in children, including ADHD and autism. I wonder how they studied that. I'm sure there's a study for it. There seems to be so many studies on BPA now. It is worth noting that a recent study found that the impact of plastic chemicals, including BPA, totaled $249 billion in annual healthcare costs. Wow. So, okay, according to this study, let's look at footnote 8. It is a study called Chemicals Used in Microplastics, an estimate of the attributable disease burden and costs in the United States. Context. Chemicals used in plastics have been described to contribute to disease and disability, but attributable fractions have not been quantified to assess specific contributions. Without this information, interventions proposed as part of the Global Plastics Treaty cannot be evaluated for potential benefits. Objective. To accurately inform the trade-offs involved in the ongoing reliance on plastic production as a source of economic productivity in the United States, we calculated the oh my gosh, this word is killing me. Attributable disease burden and cost due to chemicals used in plastic materials. So the results, let's just jump there. So this is a lot of percentages that I'm not exactly sure what they refer to. In total, we estimate $249 billion in plastic attributable disease burden in 2018. The majority of these costs arose as a result of PBDE exposure, although $66.7 billion was due to phthalate exposure, and $22.4 billion was due to PFAS exposure. Well, I mean, the healthcare industry is making tons of money, I guess, so that's another reason. Let's read their new BPA level. Because our understanding of harm from chemicals is always advancing, there is a phenomenon called expansion of harm. What is that? This phenomenon is where the knowledge about a chemical's toxicity widens and deepens as the advancing science moves from the first concerns, say reproductive toxicity, to showing damage to other body systems and organs such as neurotoxicity, brain development. So we're learning more and more about just how bad BPAs are. Harm expansion usually includes harm at even lower levels of exposure and from combinations of cumulative effects with other chemicals or risk factors. Technically, it expands the knowledge of harm. The harm existed earlier but was unrecognized. Therefore, it is important to qualify any naming of a level of safety with the term currently estimated. That's a good thing to know. They estimate it currently, but it might actually be bigger. Below is the newest, or I don't know, I hope they let us know what the plus or minus is on, like, how off it is. Below is the newest currently estimated level of safety for BPA. All right. According to the European Food Safety Agency. Here we go. The EFSA final report issued in April 2023 says a safe level of exposure to BPA is 0.2 nanograms per kilogram of body weight per day. So extremely small. 0.2 nanograms? Am I reading that right? What is ng/kg? And nanograms per kilogram. Yeah, nanograms per kilogram indicates measurements in nanograms per kilogram is very tiny and is equivalent to 1/trillionth of a gram of a chemical present in kilogram of the sample. Okay, that is 5 times higher than the draft opinion, but still a 20,000-fold decrease from their 2015 level. So it used to be even higher. It used to be, let's see, in 2015, the European Food Safety Authority set out a tolerable daily intake level of 4,000 nanograms or 4 micrograms per kilogram of body weight per day. So it went from 4,000 to 0.2 nanograms. Oh no. In the US, if we rely on an FDA 2014 estimation of US dietary exposure to BPA in 200 nanograms per kilogram body weight per day, which the FDA has continued to state is safe, our exposure is 1,000 times greater than the European safe level. Now this sounds very alarming to me. Put simply, we are all exposed to dangerous levels of BPA from our food and drink. If the FDA's estimation of our dietary exposure was not correct in 2014 or incorrect now a decade later, and there are scientific, I think they typoed, and there are scientific studies to suggest that there is, we could be more than 1,000 over the currently estimated safe level. And that's not even counting our additional exposure from non-dietary sources. Yeah, so a receipt's not going to kill you, but everything else might. That's the lesson here. Oh no. One compelling reason to trust the European scientific community's assessment of BPA safety is their unbiased approach. Ooh, I love that they're going into this. Unlike the US, FDA, which showed a bias in its handling of the outcomes of Clarity BPA studies, the United States agency being biased is not a surprise to me. The EFSA report integrated these studies into their... Sorry, there's a car alarm outside. Okay. Demonstrating a commitment to scientific integrity. A receipt's not going to kill you, but everything else might. Is such a funny take, yeah. That's what I'm learning from this. Well, I mean, it's shocking to me that we even print thermal paper with BPA coating. Like, why don't we just use like a regular... I mean, obviously, it probably has to do with money. It's probably cheaper that way. I'm just going to guess it's cheaper that we use BPA for receipts. If one were to interpret the pullback EFSA made from 0.04 nanograms in the draft report to 0.2 nanograms in 2023, the final report in the 2023 final report as a result of pressure from industry lobbying to manufacture doubt and from certain EU member state governments whose positions are similar to those of the chemical manufacturer lobby groups. Can we get these lobby groups out of politics everywhere, not just America? I feel like corporations should be nowhere near government officials. Just like religion, like church and state and corporations and state should be separate. They shouldn't be influencing each other with money. Then one would hold 0.04 nanograms as a more reliable predictive level. At that 0.04 nanogram level pegged to the FDA's 2014 exposure estimate, our exposure here in the US is 5,000 times greater. Okay. What? Oh, our exposure here in the US is 5,000 times greater than what is safe under current scientific knowledge. So not 1,000, but 5,000. I don't know what to do with this knowledge because it seems absurd. Because that just seems like the logical side of my brain is like, don't be alarmist, Sam. Be reasonable. But then the other side of my brain is like, okay, I'm reading these studies and this article that is giving all of these sources. Perhaps I should be a little bit more panicked. That's what's happening in my brain. Wow, even better, we are number one at something. I don't want to be number one. Can we not be first place in this? EU acts quickly on BPA. By March 2024, just a year after the final EFSA report, the EU took decisive action and published its draft regulation for public comment. It is on track to issue a BPA regulation in 2024, demonstrating its commitment to safeguarding its public. The EU's regulatory action is set to prohibit the use of BPA in both plastic and coated packaging of food contact materials. Well, good for them. Furthermore, it is poised to address other bisphenols in food contact materials to prevent the substitution of BPA with other harmful substances. It will only permit unintentional BPA contamination of the materials if the migration into food is undetectable and ensuring health protective safety standards. Okay, so now my next question is, are organizations in America going to do anything about this? At what point are we going to, as a country, eliminate BPA from our food products and just everything that we produce in general? By contrast, the US FDA's track record on FDA has been probably BPA, they mean, has been disappointing, particularly concerning its position on clarity BPA studies. As for a thorough reassessment of safety, the FDA conducted literature reviews in 2008 and 2014, but does not seem to have engaged in a fully transparent, detailed risk assessment with public comment the way EFSA has. The FDA has also shown predictable inertia in not responding to the petition several NGOs and scientists submitted to change the BPA safety level. Okay, so BCPP campaign, Stop BPA Exposure. BCPP has long held the position that Bisphenol-A is hazardous and people are overexposed in the US and globally. As a hormone disruptor and a recognized reproductive toxicant, BPA increases our risk of breast cancer and other serious health problems. Given that new cases of breast cancer affect over 310,700 people every year, let alone 42,000 deaths in the US, this constitutes a major dereliction of the FDA's duty to protect public health from toxicants in food. It has to do with money. 100%. It has something to do with money. So at least there are people who are trying to petition and change things in government. So what you can do to avoid BPA exposure. While it is impossible for members of the general public to completely eliminate your exposure to BPA, wow, that's how they start the paragraph. So oh wow, okay, so I was thinking, I wonder how bad it is. And this one sentence is telling me that it's so bad that I can't escape it in my life, apparently. They say it is impossible for members of the general public to completely eliminate exposure to BPA. So who is not considered general public? The richest of the rich, maybe? Is it possible for them to completely eliminate exposure to BPA? By carefully selecting which products you buy, you can still reduce your exposure. And don't touch that receipt, guys. One study demonstrated that just a 3-day period of limiting intake of packaged food decreased the concentrations of BPA found in urine by an average of 65%. Oh, that's great news. So you can pee it out, I guess. So even after a 3-day period of limiting intake, but which packaged foods? That's my concern. How do I know? I guess I should just avoid all packaged foods, maybe. A good place to start is by removing plastic materials, containers, and utensils from the kitchen, thereby reducing one's exposure route to plastic. Simple changes can reduce your BPA exposure. Avoid canned foods where fresh alternatives are not available. Choose frozen. I feel like cat food probably is lined with this, because if people in charge don't care about humans eating BPA, they certainly don't care about our pets. Avoid clear shatterproof plastic food and drink containers, sometimes labeled with a recycling code 7. Avoid handling thermal receipts. There it is. Choose BPA-free baby bottles and child cups. It is important to be aware that the alternatives to BPA have not been adequately tested. Yes, so apparently I read another article where they replaced BPA with BPS to be safer, but when they tested it, it's still just as bad. Glass and stainless steel containers are your safest bet. BPA-free labels do not mean products are safe. Well, that's the end of this article. Okay, so this isn't the one that I wanted to read. Okay, so this is the one. Handling of thermal paper. Implications for dermal exposure to bisphenol A and its alternatives. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I just want to go through the main points. Bisphenol-A, BPA, is an endocrine disrupting chemical used in a wide range of consumer products, while photoactive dyes used in thermal paper. Oh, also, apparently, if you use hand sanitizer before you touch thermal paper, before you touch a receipt, you can get even more BPAs on you. So, like, killing all the germs in your hands before touching receipt paper is actually worse for you. So just use like water and soap after touching a receipt instead of hand sanitizer beforehand. Recent studies have shown that dermal absorption of BPA can occur when handling these papers. Dermal absorption, I believe, means skin absorption. Yeah. Absorption is a global term that describes the transport of chemicals from the outer surface of the skin, both into the skin and ... into the systemic circulation, so perhaps into the blood. Dermal absorption can occur from occupational, environmental, or consumer skin exposure to chemicals, cosmetics, and pharmaceutical products. Yet regulatory agencies have largely dismissed thermal paper as a major source of BPA exposure. Exposure estimates provided by agencies such as European Food Safety Authority are based on assumptions about how humans interact with this material. You know what? I just gave you advice to wash your hands with water and soap, but then I realized we're literally talking about things that we're putting inside of our organs through our mouths. I don't want to, by saying that, I'm just saying, I don't want the fear of receipts to be overblown, because we're surrounded by danger all the time. Yet regulatory agencies, exposure estimates provided by agencies such as the European Food Safety Authority are based on assumptions about how humans interact with this material, stating that typical exposures for adults involve only one handling per day for short periods of time. With limited exposure surfaces. The objective of this study was to determine how individuals handle thermal paper in one common setting, a cafeteria providing short order meals. Oh, that's a really, I like how they did this. It's very realistic. So the way they tested it was like a cafeteria. Of course, everybody, that's so common. You go order something and you touch a receipt. How much would that affect your hands? We observed thermal handling in college-aged population, N equals 698 subjects, at the University of Massachusetts dining facility. We find that in this setting, individuals handle receipts for an average of 11.5 minutes. Interesting. That more than 30% of individuals hold thermal receipts with more than 3 fingertips, and more than 60% allow the paper to touch their palm. I could believe that. Only 11% of the participants were observed were consistent with the EFSA model for time of contact and dermal surface area. So according to this study of 700 subjects, and this is the article that is referred to a lot when it comes to people talking about receipts. It was a study with 700 people, so let's keep that in mind too. And it says only 11% of people were within the safe zone, essentially, of touching the receipt. I'm usually already pretty nervous about germs and stuff, so I guess worrying about these things kind of isn't that different. I don't think you have to worry that much. I always ball up the receipt. They definitely touch my palm. I'm so cooked. Sarah, you're gonna be okay. Don't worry about it. You're fine. I've been touching receipts my whole life. Don't you worry about it. I mean, I'm pretty sure at one point in my childhood I put a receipt in my mouth, because kids put stuff in their mouth all the time. That's another thing. I've read some comments about this kind of stuff, and people were like, "Oh no, my parents used to give me receipts and I like played with them as a baby." And that's also kind of a concern too, I suppose, that I didn't think about until I read it. Mathematical modeling based on handling times we measured and previously published transfer coefficients, concentrations of BPA in paper, and absorption factors indicate the most conservative estimated intake from handling thermal paper in this population is 51.1 nanogram per kilogram per day, similar to EFSA's estimate of 59 nanograms per kilograms per day from dermal exposures. So maybe dermal exposure estimates are higher. Oh yeah, that makes sense. Dermal estimate exposures are higher than like internal exposures. Okay, less conservative estimates using published data on concentrations in thermal paper and transfer rates to skin indicate that exposures are likely significantly higher. Based on our observational data, we propose that the current models for estimating dermal BPA exposures are not consistent with normal human behavior and should be reevaluated. Oh man, they really broke it down here with the fingertips and the palm area. So let me skip down to conclusion. Okay. Conclusions. Only in the last few years have regulatory agencies and risk assessors acknowledged that human exposure to BPA occurs via non-oral or non-dietary sources. The FSA model estimates typically daily dermal exposures of 59 nanograms per kilogram body weight. These levels are consistent with our best case scenario, extremely low concentration in thermal paper, perhaps because a different developer was used. Lower transfer coefficient and lower absorption factor, which predicts dermal intake levels of 51.1 nanogram per kilogram per body weight after a single handling event. If any of the factors that are used to calculate intake are underestimates, and there is experimental evidence to suggest that they are, actual exposures experienced by populations like the ones we observed here are likely to be much higher. Our study reveals the importance of conducting observational studies to evaluate actual consumer behaviors rather than relying on assumptions that underestimate usage patterns. So what I'm understanding is that previous standards are not in alignment with the most recent studies available. Of course, draw your own conclusions, and if anybody asks you, how do you know this? You can be like, there are many studies that you can look up, because this article has so many sources down here. I think that's where we're going to end the BPA stuff, because that was quite a deep dive. So it's something good to know about, and I presume that more people are going to be, I hope more people will become aware of this. The only solution is that people become as aware of this as like the lead that was used for the baby boomers and how bad that was for them. Hand sanitizer before receipt. That's a strange thing. So it's another study called Holding Thermal Receipt Paper and Eating Food After Using Hand Sanitizer Results in High Serum Bioactive and Urine Total Levels of BPA. So that's why I say wash your hands. You know, panicking is never helpful, and to be reasonable and rational with our actions is the best we can do. When I say reasonable, I mean, think about it. The normal average American person has probably handled hundreds, if not thousands, of receipts throughout their life. So it's not going to be, so that's not the main issue. The main issue is like plastic. And we have so much plastic, we're over-reliant on it. Let's go into microplastics, actually. Microplastics in the average American. I wonder if there's a study about that. Exposure of U.S. adults to microplastics from commonly consumed proteins. We observed microplastic contamination of greater than 45, what is micrometer? Microplastic contamination for less than 45 micrometers in 16 U.S. protein products. Highly processed products contain the most microplastics per gram. Microplastic contamination did not differ between brands or store types. Mean U.S. adult exposure from consuming these proteins is greater than 11,000 microplastics per year. Maximum adult exposure from these proteins is 3.8 million microplastics per year. That sounds like a lot. I don't know what this means though. But anything that has 1 million and microplastics, this seems terrifying in context with it's inside of me. Study finds microplastics in nearly all American proteins, meat, fish, and plants. Aren't babies being born with microplastics? Oh, yeah, I heard about that too. Because, I mean, obviously, right? We're being fed food with plastic. So when we give birth to our children, of course, our children who take nutrients from the umbilical cord from the mother is going to have microplastics in them too. And that reminds me of like my cats. When mama cat was nursing her children, they started getting worms in their poop because it passed on from their mom's milk. So I had to get medication for all 4 cats. An environmental pollution study published on Monday reviewed a wide range of meat, fish, and vegetarian meat alternatives and found that 88% of them contain some form of microplastics. Which ones don't? Can we have a list? Microplastics are tiny pieces of plastic, approximately the size of a grain. It's that big? Or a human hair? Oh, I thought they were smaller than that. Oh, that actually makes me feel sick. Based on annual protein consumption habits of Americans, the scientists found that the average American takes in 11,500 microplastics per year, with the highest protein consumers taking in as many as 3.8 million plastic fragments and fibers. So they're referring to the study we were just looking at. Those samples included fillets from wild fish, shrimp from the Gulf, prepared meats like beef and chicken, and tofu and plant-based ground beef alternatives. Oh, so it's literally in every single type of meat. I mean, except maybe bugs. I guess they didn't try bugs, but we're not going to fillet a bunch of bugs. The findings represented a startling reminder of just how prolific plastic pollution has become. Humans live on land, and yet seafood samples are just as likely to be contaminated with plastics as our terrestrial device problems. I remember a few years ago, I was being warned not to eat sushi because of like the mercury poisoning. But I guess now even cows have microplastic poisoning. Study-led author Dr. Britta Batchelor. Oh, I love the fact that her name is Britta and she's a marine biologist. That is perfect. a marine biologist and associate director of plastic science at Ocean Conservancy. And there's no escaping them no matter what you eat, it seems. The plastic pollution crisis is impacting all of us, and we need to take action to address its many forms. The source of the microplastics is unclear. Ominous. Okay, so what I understand from this article is, what I'm imagining is, decades of throwing away plastic and trash, even if we try to recycle. There are land masses, landfills, full of plastics. Islands of trash. Just islands of trash. Our ocean is filled with poisonous, toxic chemicals, and the fish are eating them. And then when the ocean condensed into rain, into the clouds, it affects our cows, it affects our chickens, it affects everything that we eat. All the animals are absorbing the toxic water. So everything is connected. Everything is connected. This has been on my mind since I was a kid. How on earth do we get rid of this? I did mention the plastic eating worms, so that's hopeful. There are worms that have been genetically modified to eat plastics. But yeah, that's my understanding of why there's so much microplastics. It's because there's so much trash in the ocean. And then when the ocean turns into water, eventually it gets absorbed into the terrestrial animals, which gets absorbed into the humans. Reminds me of the Minamata disease. Let me look that up. A factory poisoned a whole town. Minamata environmental disaster. This city is best known as the former site of an environmental disaster caused by industrial pollution of the bay with mercury. From 1932 to 1968, the chemical company Chiso discharged effluent containing methyl mercury from their plant in Minamata. Methyl mercury contaminated Minamata Bay and accumulated in fish, which were consumed by the local population. In 1968, the discharge of poisonous effluent was ceased due to discontinuation of acetaldehyde production at Chiso factory. However, the sea sediment as well as fish remained contaminated, and so measures were taken to counteract the effects. By 2007, a total of 2,668 people were certified as Minamata disease patients, 639 of whom are alive today. So here's the first patient with previously unseen neurological symptoms was reported in Minamata in 1956. In 1959, a researcher from Kumamoto University suspected that an organomercury compound could be the cause. However, paths of transformation of inorganic to organic mercury were unknown or uncertain at that time, and so the effluent from Chiso was not identified as the sought source. Oh, so they didn't know exactly what was causing it. It took 9 more years until the government officially acknowledged mercury-containing effluent from local acetaldehyde chemical plants to be the cause of Minamata disease. It took them that long to acknowledge the cause of the disease. Since then, victims of Minamata disease have been compensated by Chiso, and both local and national governments, due to the lawsuits, won official relief programs. Let me listen to a few minutes of this, and then we'll change the subject.
Kyushu, Japan's southernmost main island, looking out across the Shiranui Sea. In the early 1900s, it was a small fishing community, the kind of place where everybody knows everybody. The bay was rich with fish and shellfish alike, and families would work these waters for generations. Then did the factory. In 1908, a company called Nippon Chisa Hairu, which would later shorten its name to simply the Chisa Corporation, opened a chemical plant on the edge of town. The initial product was fertilizer, feeding Japan's growing agricultural sector as
it was making fertilizer
at a furious pace. But the factory didn't stay small for very long. By the 1930s, Chiso had expanded into carbide production, acetaldehyde, acetic acid, and vinyl chloride, a growing list of industrial chemicals that powered Japan's economic machine. The acetaldehyde process, which began in 1932, was particularly important as the compound was used to produce plastics and other materials essential to modern manufacturing.
I get the bigger picture now. This factory was like really important for the local economy. If so many people were working there, for it to have this gigantic controversy would mean that their economy would take a huge hit and people might lose their jobs too. That's no excuse, of course, but I'm just trying to understand all the aspects of it. And why it took the government 9 years to acknowledge it.
You might imagine It's definitely going to be brilliant for the environment. That's sarcasm, friends. And here's the thing about that process. It required a catalyst, specifically mercury sulfate. The mercury helped drive the chemical reaction, and when the reaction was done, the waste, including mercury compounds, went straight into Minamata Bay. Totally raw.
Oh no.
Now, Minamata didn't just have
They just dumped that stuff into the bay?
a factory. Minamata was a factory town in almost every...
This is the kind of thing that like Hayao Miyazaki would make a Ghibli movie about. Like, this is the kind of thing that Princess Mononoke is probably warning about. That YouTuber has a very nice way of talking. Yeah, I like him. And his last name is Whistler, like whistleblower, so that's pretty fun. He makes a lot of these deep dive videos.
By
He's
mid-century,
really cool.
Chico and its subsidiaries accounted for roughly a quarter
Yeah,
of
Sid
all
introduced me to this one. I thought I subscribed to it already. Anyways,
employment.
but he does another channel called Warfronts.
And an even larger share of the town's tax revenue. The company built housing for workers, funded local schools, and wielded the kind of influence that comes when an entire community's prosperity flows from a single source. If Chisso thrived, Minamata thrived. If Chisso struggled, everybody in Minamata felt it.
I mean, I think we're done with this for now. And it's almost 9, so I just wanted to like look for some other videos that we can cool off with. Okay, so this one is titled, "You Are Not Immune to AI Propaganda." So this is an AI generated propaganda ad, presumably targeting people on the right, but this is just so ridiculous, and I thought it was funny. So some random AI generated woman comes up to this woman and punches her on the left side of the face, and she uses an ice pack on the other side. Or her right, our left. But this is AI.
There is only one audience who's dumb enough to fall for this kind of AI marketing. There is no other group who would ever...
Can y'all please stay 6 seconds to tell my daughter her goth lamps don't suck?
That is an incredible sentence. Goth daughter that her goth lamps don't suck.
Goth lamp business is failing.
So there's only 2 groups. There's just the 2 groups who would ever fall for AI advertisement. But nobody educated would ever...
Stop emailing me about my TA.
Yeah, now this is really well done. If I saw this in my reel, I would probably assume that it's a real clip. If I didn't have prior knowledge of this kind of situation can be realistically portrayed by AI.
She is not ignoring you. She is also a student. She has her own classes. She has her own work.
That account's called Professors Crashing Out, and they got 10,000 followers.
So this is the guy who created that. And it makes me sick to my stomach that there are people who are proudly creating AI slop. And they have 10,000 followers.
In like a month before the guy who runs it came out and said, "I'm kind of tired of making AI videos of professors."
I know I'm not a normal girl.
Yes, I made them in my
Stay
workshop.
6 seconds and tell me if you like my cutting boards. I was 16 when my mom bagged up my black.
So who is the vulnerable target audience of AI-related marketing? Is it conservatives, or is it teachers, or is it students, or is it whoever the audience of that goth girl is? Welcome to Bias Blind Spot. Some of you need to get over yourselves. A bias blind spot is a person's tendency to recognize biases in others while thinking they themselves are relatively objective. But you are not immune to propaganda. And the more that you think you cannot be fooled, the more likely you are to not only be fooled, but you've probably been fooled in the past, but you are so smart that that could never happen to you.
I think this is very related to the reason I started today's episode, which is if you start believing that you can't be wrong, you might end up in a place where you are just full of arrogance and you might be tricked just because you think you can't be. And I don't think the answer is to like not trust anything at all ever. I think the answer is just to become more conscious and critical and share with each other when things are wrong, when facts are wrong, and when things are made of AI.
Thinking that you can't be tricked is really dangerous. It's also really preventable. If you are willing to admit to yourself that there might be situations where you're a bit overconfident, not only have you been wrong in instances that you've identified, but you have been wrong in instances where you still haven't learned that you were incorrect. There was an idea...
He's speaking really kind of intense, but His basic point is be careful.
Presented at the end of the video that I made yesterday, but of the 500,000 people who watched it, only 3% of people even finished it. And I'm not entitled to you watching my entire videos. There's no judgment from me about that. But some of you have really strong opinions based on something that you weren't fully taught about because you didn't finish the thing.
Let's see. The professor one is clever. Tinny audio, grainy, zoomed in footage at an awkward angle helps hide the uncanny valley look the rest have, yeah. You are not immune to propaganda is such an important statement. I want to encourage us to realize that we might be more biased than we realize. The worst part is sometimes you need to watch a few times to confirm it's AI, and then you're just giving them extra engagement. I guess in that case, it would be better just to skip, huh? I saw a literal healthcare ad on TV that had all AI clips of patients, doctors, and nurses. I could spot it immediately, but it was so well done, it was insane. Ugh.
It is very easy for a person to remember all of the times that they have identified.
Oh, survivorship bias. When we infer patterns from successful or visible examples while ignoring the far more numerous unsuccessful ones. So it's like when people are defending their own success, they're like, oh, if I can do it, everybody can. That's survivorship bias. It's like, oh, just because you succeeded doesn't mean that it's going to happen that way for everybody. You might have circumstances that were more in your favor, and many more other people have circumstances that are not in their favor.
AI, and they're like, AI slop. How could anybody ever fall for this? But do you remember the times that you didn't notice it was AI and it just went right past your radar without you ever learning that you were tricked by something? And I'm not talking to you, obviously. You've never been fooled. But what if you pretend as though maybe in the past you have been fooled and you just didn't notice it? And we stop judging the vulnerable parties in all demographics, not just the demographics that you personally hate. And we recognize that the issue might be, at least in part, with the marketing and the tactics that are being used and the predatory nature of them, and we focus on that instead. Or maybe not instead, but at least also, damn. Have a good day.
So he's very passionate about that. Maybe that was a little bit too heavy. Now this is a humble cat. This guy compliments this cat, and this cat's like, who, me?
How you doing there, Mr. Majestic? Yeah, I'm talking to you. You don't have to look behind you.
Oh.
How you doing there?
How you doing there, Mr. Majestic? He's like, who,
Mr.
me?
Majestic. Yeah, I'm talking to you.
The cute animals are also hope core because it reminds me that even though humans are involved in these crazy, powerful, long-lasting systems of oppression, we still have, we still have our cats, we still have our dogs. We still have the ability to dance and sing and be joyful and to be happy and to enjoy games, to enjoy Wordle. I feel very hopeful. Even though all this crazy stuff is happening, I also see so much evidence of people who care. And I feel like it's a very exciting time to be alive. We're living through very revolutionary, never before seen times in history right now. Despite it all, I'm happy to be alive today. Despite all of these controversies and all the chaos and all the distractions and the overstimulation of society, I'm still so happy to be here. I'm happy to be here with you guys. I'm happy to be here to, try to help make the world a better place in any way that I can. And I think the best way to make the world a better place is first and foremost to focus on the people around us. And before that, ourselves. We must get in touch with the light and the love within ourselves. And if we can maintain that, then we might be able to become a bridge of light and enlightenment and knowledge for other people. And that's what I want. I want to be a bridge, like a signpost, essentially. And I think for like an entertainer or a quote unquote influencer who has no, specific academic background in these things, I think the best thing I can do is to be a signpost, to be like, hey guys, let's learn together. Let's grow together. Let's, if something is wrong, let's talk about it. So I appreciate you guys. Alrighty. Have a good night, everyone. Try to get some rest. Try to get some food. Try to get some water. And remember to, hydration reminder. And take care of yourselves. Forgive yourselves. Be gracious to yourselves. Have a good night. Thank you for learning with me.